everybody, and welcome to Nerdcular Warfare. We haven't done this show in a while. It's because I've been working up some new scenarios that are super fun to play. Our scenario today is going to be Situation Sitcom, by the request of one of our regular viewers that wanted to have sitcom stuff going on. Because I usually do movies and things, so TV it is. Why not? So we have 4 contestants here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Kyle, pop on. Tell us about yourself.
I'm producer Kyle. I produce everything at The Experience. I was a comic book retailer, pop culture fan, music nerd. And this is like my, 7th or 8th time playing the Nerdcular Warfare. And I've never won. So my goal for this episode is not to mistake Adam Sandler for Mike Myers.
There you go. I like that. That's good goals. How about you, Dan?
I'm Dan Wickline. I'm obsessed with crocheting, hot toys, and bass guitars. So I don't even know what this game show is, and I hate sitcoms. So let's do this.
Woohoo! Brainy.
Hey, I'm not Kyle. I'm not Dan or Mark, I guess, or Jen. I am the low life of here, I guess. Kyle bribed me to come here, so I'm here. I'm not sure why, because I know I have a very big disadvantage. But hey, we're gonna win this one, right?
Brainy, you're just gonna pivot every show back to Emily in Paris?
Hey, you told me every single question is gonna be about Emily in Paris. And if not, it's going to be Bridgerton.
Mm-hmm. It's all good. Mark.
Hey, I'm Mark, host of Nerd News Now, along with Jen, Brainy, and Kyle. And I hate game shows and I love sitcoms. So let's go.
That's perfect. Okay, so the way the game works is we've got 4 contestants. And we've got 3 rounds. So everyone's going to get a chance to debate each other at least once. If they're super successful, they'll get to debate each other in the finals. The scoring happens because the other opponents get to award points. So they're going to pay close attention to the debates that are going on and tell them where they went wrong after the round is done, which is pretty fun. So let's pull everybody out except for Kyle and Brainy, who are in first question together. Okay, so I did something different with this this show than I have in the past. Usually you guys and your other opponents are going to have the exact same scenario. I've changed the scenario for every single pairing, so you're never going to get bored of arguments for this show. All right, so I'm going to tell everybody that this the name of the show is Situation Sitcom. And so what I've done is paired an older sitcom with a newer sitcom. And I'm going to allow you guys to use everything about those shows, the setting of the show, the people that are in them, the actors that play the parts, or anything that surrounds any of those. And also think about your scenario very carefully. Use all of those elements to make your argument. You're going to have a minute to debate. Don't interrupt each other. You guys all know these rules. So you're going to both end up with debate time, and then you're going to get to do rebuttals. So, okay. Brainy, your first sitcom is The Odd Couple. Kyle, yours is The Honeymooners. Okay. Brainy, your more modern sitcom is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And Kyle's is Scrubs. By the way, there is part of the rules of this debate show is that there are no rules that you can break. So if you have a phone or whatever, you can look on them. So if people are watching and you're like, what, they're cheating. I'm like, I don't care. As long as they make fun arguments, I don't care where they found the information. All right, Here is your scenario. Your two groups must survive Jurassic Park. Okay? They must survive Jurassic Park. It looks like Kyle comes up first. Let me get your timer set. This looks like it goes. Ready? Go.
So we're going to start off out the door just in time, headed down the 405, got to meet the new boss by 8 a.m. The theme song from Scrubs. If you've ever driven the 405 in California, then you know Jurassic Park is easy compared to the California drivers. All right? Jurassic Park is nothing if you've ever had to navigate an episode of Chips, right? So we'll just start there with Scrubs is already prepared, but you have the honeymooners. I also have the honeymooners. The man who constantly wants to send everyone to the moon. Like, super simple in terms of Jackie Gleason is a powerhouse on par with no other comedian ever. So you have a powerhouse comedian. You have a doctor show, which is the most accurate doctor-based television show ever. You can look that up. That's a real fact.
All right. Brainy.
Are you kidding me? You are going to take a bunch of honeymooners and doctors and put them on the 405 freeway? That is like basically saying, hey, T-Rex, come on, here's your plate. It's set up. These guys are not going anywhere. They are stuck in their vehicle. The doctors can't do anything because they don't have any of their equipment because, they can't do crap in Scrubs without all the fancy medical gear that they have. And they're just stuck doing nothing. Now, compare that to two guys who are completely opposite but figure out a way to live together. They will come up with a decisive plan to just overtake the dinosaurs at the park. They are going to make sure they control them. One of them is a pure neat freak. That's what he's going to be doing. And let's not forget, guys, we've got the Brooklyn Nine-Nine crowd. They know how to get all those freaking guys lined up and in order. They will get everything done correctly.
What do you think is going to happen the first time Tony Randall sees blood? He's going to try and clean it up. So the first time there's any violence at all on Jurassic Park, Tony Randall is useless. And by the way, Felix Unger is a guy who liked to hyperventilate and have nervous breakdowns in the middle of everything. Like, if the spaghetti is undercooked, nervous breakdown. If it's linguine and you call it spaghetti, nervous breakdown. So forget that. John C. McGinley as Dr. Cox, a man who survived the movie Platoon, is going to do very well in Jurassic Park because he's a survivor. All right? Donald Faison, Petey from Remember the Titans, a guy who went from offense to defense. He's a survivor. He can get things done. Sure, Zach Braff's going to be over in the corner somewhere, but you also have second Becky, Sarah Chalk, who, if she dies, you just replace her with Lacey Goranson and it works out okay. So you've got a lot of options on the Scrubs cast, and we'll forget the season with Dave Franco.
Brainy, bring it home.
Wait, Kyle, I'm not sure I understand this. You've got these guys stuck on the 405 freeway. For them to get out of the park, they have to first make it to the park. They will never do that. Have you ever been on the 405? Heck, man, they will never make it there. That's why our team of ragtag freaking police officers that have been practicing how to control the crowd will take all those dinosaurs in their big squad cars and take them to the 405 and present them with their dinner of a bunch of wannabe doctors that never actually become doctors. Let's not forget honeymooners who can't do anything else but just, sit there looking at themselves, and they'll be just awed by seeing some really big animals they've never seen before because, back in the Timbuktu land, they didn't have anything called dinosaurs.
Excellent. Well played. All right, Mark, what do you have to say about such things?
There's a lot going on there. To be honest, once they said 405, I zoned out because one of my favorite bands is Death Cab for Cutie, and they have an amazing song called 405 off of the album We Have the Facts, and we're voting yes. I feel that it was you had two odd couples in that situation, and one was not called on upon at all, and that was Captain Holt and Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, being the perfect Felix and Oscar counterpart. I also think that Felix's plan would have been just to feed a sloppy Oscar to a T-Rex and escape that way, but then that would have been mucked up because of his sloppiness, and then they would have just come back together in the end. So I'm going to give it to Kyle.
Okay. Kyle gets a point. Dan, what do you have to say?
Well, see, first thing, Kyle's working at a deficit here because he creates this whole scenario with the 405 and them on the freeway, but he never brings up the fact that the honeymooners, Jackie Gleason's character is a bus driver. He never even brings up the fact that he should be on there in a bus. Nope, just completely zones that out. So that's a strike against him there. But Brainy leaves off the fact that the captain on Brooklyn Nine-Nine probably could have stopped all of the dinosaurs with just one of his evil stares. Just that look that he gives should have been able to stop all the dinosaurs right there and got them back in order, got them offline. But of the two, I think Kyle created the ultimate sin, though, by forgetting the bus driving part. So I got to give it to Brainy.
Okay. Split round, I see. Now I got to break the tie here. Okay. I am going to give my point to Kyle only because Brainy went back to the same well in the second round and brought up the same argument. So that's my only reason. Very well played, both sides. Okay. I'm marking all my points so I don't have to go back and do it at the end. All right, let's bring Dan and Mark up for their round. Dan, your first sitcom is Cheers.
Okay.
Mark, yours is Who's the Boss? Dan, your second sitcom is The Office. And Mark, yours is Parks and Rec. See, I made it all fair. Your scenario for this round, your sitcom people have to survive astronaut training. Okay.
All right.
First at bat is Dan. Pull up my timer for you. And it's time to go.
All right. First thing, astronaut training is going to be really easy for the guys from Cheers because they drink constantly. They're used to trying to figure out how not to vomit. So the vomit comment's going to be no problem at all for these guys on Cheers. And then you look at Sam, he's an old athlete. You look at Coach, all these characters, they're used to this kind of stuff. Now, you switch over to The Office, Jim now, Jim then, Jim now, he's freaking Jack Ryan. So he can handle anything. So I don't see how these guys could be stopped by, no problem. They're going to just glide through this. And then you throw in the boss on, the boss on The Office. He's so annoying, they're going to just make it through to spite him.
Sorry, Mark, there you go.
Well, I feel really confident about my team. I got Who's the Boss, and I also have the cast of Parks and Rec. And the reason I'm so confident is because the greatest scientific riddle that was ever created was Who's the Boss? The boss is Angela. Now you bounce over to the Parks and Rec side, and I have the greatest weapon that anyone could ever have for any plan needed to survive that astronaut training, and that is Leslie Knope's binder. Meticulous planner. And then you have Ron Swanson fueled by bacon and bourbon. And lest we forget, the most important thing about space training is the ability to keep all the contents in your stomach. And Andy, the lead singer of Mouse Rat, once ate 1,000 sushis until he got sick. So I feel very confident in this team.
Well said. Dan, rebut.
I understand that you're confident in your team, but you got to remember on Who's the Boss, not only do you have Tony and Angela, but you've got the kids. They're never going to survive. You've got the grandma or the ma. She's not going to survive on that. And then you go over to Parks and Rec. They're constantly fighting. With my guys, Cheers, you've got Cliff. Cliff knows everything. He's understanding everything. He can get them through everything. If you got Cliff and Norm's going to balance everything out. Norm is the counterweight, keeps you guys focused and centered. And then on The Office, if anything happens to Jim, you've got the backup Jim. You've got the Asian Jim ready to go. And then you got Rainn Wilson. It's just already set up as you need. So I am completely confident in my team here handling NASA, no problem, just like that.
Mark.
Counterpoint, two members from my team completely take Cliff Clavin and Norm off the table. Of course, Mona, as you called cannon fodder. Now the kids, they're cannon fodder. I mean, if we need some extra room and space, put them in the cargo chute, sure. But Mona comes out and seduces Cliff. Ball game over. And then Ron Swanson versus Norm in a drinking contest. Both completely incapacitated. We still have the binder that we can get through all this meticulous planning. Tony makes a pretty good leader. And of course, the boss, Angela, everyone's going to fall in line to her. And Leslie Knope will not only be enamored with her, but they will also work together. And of course, we're going to have a luxury space travel because anytime you go in space, treat yourself.
Well played. That was awesome. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, I think you both made a fatal flaw.
Uh-oh.
Steve Carell from The Office is Gru, who's been to space. And Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec, who plays Andy, is Star-Lord, who's been to space. So, not invoking them as, hey, we've already done it, weakens both of your arguments. That being said, I think we all leaned a little too much into the question of who is the boss, which is actually a Community reference and not a reference to any of the 4 sitcoms you were working with. So I'm going to go with Dan only because I would like to see Cliff and Norm try and get a beer on Jupiter.
Brainy.
Oh, Kyle nailed it. That that was one of the things I was waiting for Dan to actually point out. Is if anything, Cliff and Norm are going to probably open up a bar on Mars and go from there. So I have to agree with Kyle. I really want to see those two up in space and see what the heck they're going to do at the International Space Station. So I'm giving my vote to Dan as well.
Yours to Dan, huh?
But I just want to point out, how awesome would it be to see a drinking contest between Norm and Ron Swan?
Okay, so...
And wait, in my defense, this was surviving astronaut training, not surviving being in space.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, but I incapacitated one of your greatest people. But hey, and also Mark, I can make a Community reference.
In the after show, we'll talk about how I have an answer to who's a better drinker, Norm or Ron Swanson.
Okay.
And I'm actually giving Mark my point because of his zinger at the end. I love zingers. They're my favorite thing. If you can get the last word in and it's like, boom. Perfect. All right, first round is done. Everyone is well matched. All right, so now we're getting reconfigured. So now it's going to be Kyle versus Dan. Your sitcom is Taxi. Oh, you got a bear.
But I cheat with some cuteness factor.
Oh, that's okay. I've given points to people before because they did costume changes in between rounds. And Dan, Dan, your first sitcom is MASH.
Okay.
Kyle, your second sitcom is The Good Place. And Dan, your seconds is 30 Rock. Your challenge is to finish the Iditarod. Famous dog sled race. Okay, first out is going to be Kyle. Ready? Fight!
So I'm just going to point out that everyone on The Good Place is dead. So the Iditarod isn't going to be all that hard because they can't get cold. Plus, you have Darcy Carden's character, Janet, who knows everything. Right? She is a personal digital assistant or something like that who could just tell you which way to go to finish the Iditarod. So we're gonna have all of that going for us. Plus, it's Taxi. If Judd Hirsch could figure out how to navigate New York in a taxi cab in the 70s while also working with Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito, he could figure out anything. We're going to leave the Andy Kaufman of it for the second round because Andy Kaufman's going to take a whole minute. But I think you've got navigators. It's Taxi and it's Janet, who is a human GPS, leading dogs through the woods.
Dan.
You may have Janice or whatever her name is. I have, and teddy bear is appropriate here, Walter Radar O'Reilly, who can not only tell you when helicopters are coming, but he can find you anything you need. You want a sled, you want supplies, Radar will get it for you. So I have the greatest supply system, and he can. There's no need to, need a GPS system. You've got Radar who knows. Then you throw in, you got Alec Baldwin's character, who's going to just throw money at whatever needed. He's going to bring in the best people. And then you got Tracy in there, who's going to entertain everybody else. He's going to be hanging out at the start of the Iditarod. He's going to get your crew laughing their asses off. You're not even going to know the race has started. It's going to be gone. Radar.
Kyle.
So when you factor in Andy Kaufman was on Taxi, plus everyone else is on Taxi, Jeff Conway, all of these notorious drug users, plus Pony Boy, or not Pony Boy, I can't think of his name right now, but the Jeremy and the other guy who from Tallahassee in The Good Place, they're just gonna hoover up the snow like it's cocaine that they actually did in the 70s, like, because this show clearly they were stoned the whole time, so they're not gonna have problems with like terrain or whatever because they'll just and it'll be good. So I don't think that's a problem. Plus, if you could figure out how to work with Andy Kaufman, like a guy who would routinely come to set as an alternative personality and wouldn't work unless you referred to him as that alternative personality, I think you could figure out how to not get the dogs lost. I think it's pretty simple. Plus, Ted Danson's forehead can shield you from the weather.
Oh, you can have Ted Danson. I'll take Alan Alda because you know what? Hawkeye Pierce is one of the greatest surgeons of all time. And you know what the number one reason people don't finish the Iditarod race? Injury. Injury to the dogs, injury to the drivers. He could get you patched up and back on the road. He did a tracheotomy on the side of the frickin' road in the middle of a war zone. You guys, they're in the good place. These guys are in a war. All right. And I'm sticking with Radar and Hawkeye and Tracy Jordan getting you guys laughing. You got nothing going on your side. We got And then we have Frank Burns that we could throw down in front of your dog sled and just trip you guys up because nobody likes Frank Burns. This Larry Linville, we're just going to throw off on the side. You're going to have to ride over him. You got it.
Dang, oh, it just got real dark. All right. All right, Brainy, what do you have to say about that round?
Oh man, that was a great round, guys. You guys did a great job on that. This was a tough one, but towards the end, when Dan, he had everybody cracking. So I got to give this point to Dan. Before that, I seriously, because Kyle had Janet, I'm like, that's an automatic win. She's misinformation. She'll get you anywhere, to anywhere, from anywhere. She can navigate everything. But Dan, the whole game is about giving the best argument and giving the best presentation. And you did that towards the end, Dan. Good job. My point goes to Dan.
Thank you.
Mark.
And Dan, you could have wrapped it up so much easier and faster if you had remembered the reference from 30 Rock where Tracy Jordan was going to take over the Snow Dogs franchise from in Snow Dogs 5. And he trained for that Nidoran. I could see it in your subconscious. You just kept saying Tracy Jordan will make, and I was like, well, here it comes. But all that aside, I'm a huge fan of MASH, and the Frank Burns thing put it over the top. So I got to give my point to Dan.
Dan's cleared up, and I'm sorry, I have to give my point to Dan because the teddy bear in the hat.
I would also give a point to Dan for the Frank Burns thing.
Wait a minute. Did he know that he had MASH before he grabbed the teddy bear?
Nope. I know.
So he ended up being dressed like Radar. That is wild.
Are you a precog?
No. I thought it would be funny because I have him on the back here normally. I'm like, it's Bloodshot Bear from Valiant.
I love him.
The only thing I wish Dan would have mentioned is hot lips to keep everyone warm, or Corporal Klinger to keep everyone finally attired.
There you go.
Like, it's the only thing Dan missed. I missed all kinds of stuff on Taxi and on The Good Place, so
that's okay. You can bring it up when we talk about it afterwards, because I know that you'll be like thinking about it until we get to that.
yes.
All right, Brainy and Mark, you're up. Brainy, you have The Cosby Show. Mark, you have The Andy Griffith Show. Two oldies but goodies. Brainy, you also have the cast of Friends. And Mark, you have the cast of Community. I did not plan that. All right, here is your scenario. You are summiting Mount Everest. The whole team has to make it, by the way. All right. This looks like this round is Brainy up first. Let me get him started. Ready? Go!
Now, when you're climbing up Everest, you've got to make sure you have everything you need. One of the things you need is trust with all the members in your party. And who better to, exemplify that than the cast of Friends? I mean, these guys trusted each other with every single aspect of everything in their lives. Next thing you need, good gear. With Rachel having Rachel and Denise actually having great expertise in retail. They know exactly what they need. They know exactly what they're going to get, and they know where to get it. Perfect. One of the greatest advantages of our team is they've got a great doctor on hand that can take care of any issues that arise on their travel up the mountain. And he's been a doctor for so many years. He's got experience that can handle anything they come across.
Good. Mark. Oh, did he freeze? Oh no.
Oh, I froze, just like my team would not do, climbing the deadly mountains of Everest. So look, I'm not too worried about this task here because I got Andy Griffith's show, so I've got a lot of people who are a small town loyal, familiar with nature. I mean, they fished every single episode. I mean, it got ridiculous. It's like, are you guys going to catch something or not? But it doesn't matter because they're not going to have to worry about that because everything's going to be frozen. Troy and Abed are going to rally the troops as usual. Joel's going to come up with a scheme so crazy that he's going to end up in some, ski bunny school while they're all performing this task. All we got to do is not Brita it up.
Brainy. You're Mike.
I don't know, Mark. I think your team has a huge problem because they just, they'll never get anything done. The ragtag team of community guys, they'll never get along. They'll never figure out which path to take and which is the right way to go. They're just gonna be lost everywhere. Wherein, we've got a great organized team with, Joey and Chandler always in sync. They know exactly what the other person is going to think, what they're going to do. The girls, I mean, they can predict exactly what the other girls are going to be doing as well. Mrs. Huxtable, the one person that'll keep the entire team together. She'll get everybody online. She'll make sure everybody's doing exactly what's necessary to make it up to that summit. We have no problems whatsoever with our team. I think we're going to make it up there. And we may actually have to come back down to help your team out as well once we're reached up there.
Mark?
Let's just go ahead and call this what it is. This is the one where the friends die from confusion. They got smelly cats to deal with. They got monkeys that are misbehaving. They got turkeys stuck on their head. They're going to fall down that mountain. We're going to be focused. I got Troy and Abed in the morning, and we're going to take that mountain. Look, and here's the other thing is you might be thinking like, oh, well, while they got turkeys on their head, they're not going to freeze to death because they have a doctor. Well, guess what? I'm going to take a sandwich from Shirley's sandwich shop and distract him. And he's going to be bipping and bopping on the sandwich the whole time, not paying attention. And we're just going to go straight up that hill. All I got to do really is just send up Joel first. And the dean will be so motivated to watch him ascend from behind. He's just going to push the team to victory. I mean, that's all you really have to do. And then you got Annie at the top in her Santa outfit, coaxing the team to victory. Oh, we got this. We got it.
It was a great round. Oh, man. Dan, what do you think about that?
I am impressed both by Mark's ability to come out of the frozen situation with a good line and his references. I mean, just on top of both shows, his shows and Brainy's show. So I thought Brainy did good, but I think Mark was just a little bit ahead. So I got to give my point to Mark.
Okay. Kyle.
I was really worried because I forgot Bill Cosby was a doctor in the show, that Brainy was saying that Ross was the doctor. And we all know Ross wasn't really a doctor. That said, could they be any more ill-equipped to climb Mount Everest? At least in season 2, episode 1 of Community, Anthropology 101, the gang got to study under Betty White, who was cast as an explorer who had done it. So I think Mark's argument was stronger because his references were stronger. But I think he kept going back to Joel McHale a little too much. So my point goes to Brainy.
Okay. Brainy takes a point. All right. And I am so surprised, very surprised that no one brought in the Cosby sweaters to the argument, considering they're going to a very cold weather place. And those people were known for their awesome sweaters, so sad. But I'm going to give it to Joel McHale's butt. Sorry. All right, that was awesome. awesome round. We got one more round. We're going to assort everybody. It's going to be now Kyle versus Mark. I think you guys are the most experienced players that we have, so this will be good. Kyle, your first sitcom is I Love Lucy. Mark, you have Roseanne. I like that one. That was good. Kyle, you also have King of the Hill. Mark, you're going to be very happy. You have The Simpsons. Okay, here is your scenario. They are competing in the show Naked and Afraid. Mark, you get to lead out. Ready? Go.
Well, with the cast of Roseanne, everyone's just plain afraid of Roseanne. So I guess I'll hop over to the Simpsons part for the Naked and Afraid part. But there's been numerous times where they've survived the elements. I mean, Homer was Mr. Plowsing, survived the snow. He didn't quite survive the Treehouse of Horror where he was frozen to death, but he wasn't necessarily afraid the whole time because he was trying to kill everyone. Bart has survived, I think, 3 or 4 different types of Lord of the Flies situations. Lisa is the smartest person by far in this entire group, unless you want to make some sort of idea that Bobby somehow has this hidden intelligence. But I would just send him on a snipe hunt and get him separated from the group, and that's where they'll become weaker just doing that. And really, there's just too many characters to mention.
Coil?
Damn it, Bobby. Bring me my vitamin. I don't do a very good Hank Hill, I'll be honest. But here's the thing. If you're the cast of Roseanne or the cast of The Simpsons and Fred Mertz comes around the tree and just walks into your camp naked because this is Naked and Afraid, you run because you think you've been attacked by some sort of animal. I mean, no one wants to see Fred Mertz naked, including Ethel. That's why they slept in separate beds on that show. It wasn't because of obscenity. It was because nobody wanted to be around that guy. Okay? And if you want to win Naked and Afraid, just have Ricky play Babalu. That's the most annoying song ever written ever. So I'm not even to King of the Hill yet, and whether or not Luann can lure anybody from one camp to the other with her hotness, or Bobby Hill is going to be able to identify the different meat bits from the different animals that you can eat.
Mark.
I'm pretty sure that in like the 30-something seasons they've been on, that The Simpsons has done an episode where they're both naked and or afraid and survive just fine. And if not, I'm going just to rely on the cast of Roseanne to get by with just the basics out of life. Because remember, this is like pre-lottery Connors here, right? So this is a group of people that is like blue collar, hardworking, that has scraped together nothing their whole lives and survived the entire time. And I'm also going to rely on the technology of Professor Frink. And if nothing else, we can just blow up the other team with a propane tank and propane accessories. So, I mean, that's about all I got. This is just, the entire town of Springfield.
So let's go back to Bobby Hill as an expert at navigating meat and can identify cuts of meat on anything. And then Hank Hill is an expert in cooking them. They're going to have no problem finding food. Do you think Dan Connor's heart could really take being out in the wilderness all that time? No. And then which Becky are you taking? You know Sarah Chalk is more of an indoor Becky, whereas Lisa Goranson's an outdoor Becky. It's a whole thing. Roseanne is just going to be a mess. Now, if you want to talk about The Simpsons, they can probably handle it. But who do you think is a tougher broad? Peggy Hill or Marge Simpson? I would like to see that fight in the jungle. It would probably be the second ever Rumble in the Jungle, which would be dope, and I would be here for it. But then you just come back to everybody knows that Dale Gribble is an absolute powerhouse, whatever it comes to, and that Boomhauer is actually an undercover agent for the FBI or CIA or whatever, so he would just get extracted.
Great job. Brainy, what do you think about that round?
You know what? I kind of missed what their scenario was, so I was a little bit more intrigued with what the conversation was.
I'm competing naked and afraid.
Yeah, I got that midway through Mark's rebuttal. I'm like, oh, they're supposed to be naked and afraid. Again, two very good arguments, and I'll give this much. Mark, I think he just sat there and watched every single episode of every single sitcom because his knowledge of all the characters it's astounding for me. I think that he took some of his characters to the point where it's like, hey, this is great. I think Kyle did a great job as well, but I got to give my point to Mark on this one.
Okay.
I gotta say that I think the trump card there was Fred Mertz walking naked into the other camp, because I thought Mark could have done that with Roseanne. So the fact that he didn't and Kyle did, I got to give my point to Kyle on that one.
Okay. And my point goes to Kyle for doing a voice. Oh, I love.
And also, I just looked it up. There was a season 33 episode called "Pixelated and Afraid."
That's perfect. All right, Brainy and Dan. So, Brainy, you have the cast of Seinfeld. And Dan, you have the cast of All in the Family.
Okay.
Okay. Brainy, you also have the cast of Big Bang Theory. And Dan, you have Sex and the City.
All right.
Your scenario is they are competing in Survivor. There can be only one. Dan gets to lead off. Ready? Go.
Watching. All right, so you got to start off with the fact that Survivor is a game of strategy. All right, so first thing, you got Kim Cattrall's character, who is going to seduce anybody on the opposing team and get them on their side. Then you got Archie, who is going to be the one that everybody goes after. He's that annoying guy. He's the Rudy from season 1 of Survivor, that everybody's like the old crotchety guy. But it turns out he's got a good heart in him deep down. So you got that going. Then you got Edith. They're taking care of everybody. She's taking care of everybody, moving around. And Archie is like, Edith. So you got that all going on. But then you got, the cast of Sex and the City. They're out there. They're looking at. They're making clothing out of tree branches and stuff. They're looking hot out there. It's no problem.
Brainy. Microphone. He's just going to take a nap. Turn on your mic, Brainy. Turn on your mic. There you go.
This is annoying. Sorry. I don't know how much of that you caught. But Dan, your argument was so boring, I had to get my pillow. But anyway, unfortunately, Dan, your team's completely screwed on this. I've got 4 physicists and engineer. I'm sorry, 2 physicists, an engineer, and an astrologist. These guys are smart. They know how to build things. They know how to put everything together. And they will definitely get everything that's necessary to survive through Survivor. As far as the seduction goes and Rudy's attitude and distraction, they have been dealing with Sheldon all their lives. They don't need and they can get through anything at all.
Okay.
Dan.
Okay. Sheldon can't operate when anything changes. He's not in his apartment. He can't do anything. And the guy that dates Penny and the other guys are all going to be completely distracted. They're all seducible like that. Not a problem. But, the fact is that there are all these scientists and stuff on your show, but in all that time, they could never fix the elevator. All they did was walk up the stairs constantly. They never put time into fixing the elevator. Archie, blue collar guy, knows how to work, get things done. The girls on Sex and the City, look at where they were living. They knew how to work it to live in the nice apartments and stuff. So I have no problem with my team. They're great. And like I said, Edith is the mother figure, takes care of everybody. They're going to work fine. You got a bunch of brain scientists, but did you even mention your other crew, your other sitcom people?
No, because I ran out of time. My second sitcom people. Come on, you're talking about people living in New York in fancy places. We've got 4 guys that we have no idea how they can afford that place. They were. Come on, the guy. What's his name? Oh, Kramer. Nobody knows what he does, but he has enough money to, have an apartment in New York. But the whole idea of this is them surviving on an island. We have a guy who's an astronaut, figured out how to build a toilet up in there. He's been up to the International Space Station, had fixed whatever was necessary up there. We've got them making robots. We've got them doing all this other stuff. On top of that, we've got the conniving mischiefs of, oh my God, whatever that guy's name. The bald guy. George, he will manipulate every single cast member of your group, and this guy will take.
My favorite part. All right. Mark and Kyle. You got your job cut out for you. Kyle, you're burst into scenes, I can tell.
It's a theoretical physicist, an experimental physicist, an astrophysicist, an engineer, a microbiologist, a neurobiologist, and a Cheesecake Factory waitress. Okay. You have George and Elaine, who nobody really knows what they do. They just sort of exist. Here's my thing on this, right? I don't know who to give my point to because I couldn't get past the fact that Brainy left a really big knock against the All in the Family crew off, and Dan left a really big knock against the Seinfeld crew off. So I don't know who to give my point to at this point. So if I flip a coin, I prefer the Big Bang Theory to Sex and the City, and I prefer Seinfeld to All in the Family. So my point goes to Brainy.
An odd reason why, and that would have gotten you voted off on Survivor, that kind of decision making. Mark?
Well, Sarah Jessica Parker was a genius on Square Peg's Child Prodigy and also a witch in Hocus Pocus, so you could have used that. But the whole argument with seduction doesn't really work either because they would have been without their makeup and comforts that they're used to. And George would never be able to be seduced because he'd be too worried about shrinkage out in the cold. So I'm going to go with Brainy.
So Jerry would get hung up on literally every minuscule detail of everthing.
Yeah, it's a show about nothing, so they wouldn't have done anything. I should have brought up that one.
Right. The son-in-law on All in the Family doesn't know in what order to put on socks and shoes.
Mm-hmm.
He goes sock, shoe, not sock, shoe, shoe, which is a whole thing that out in the wilderness is going to get you killed.
True.
I have never watched All in the Family. I have to do that now. I'm glad I didn't get that show.
All right, and I give my point to Brainy because I thought he did a really good job in recovery for having lost his entire half of his first batch. So Way to never give up. All right. We got to defer. We want to see Mark and Dan go at it.
All right.
Well,
So we Mark and Dan in the final.
Okay. You have one scenario. You get the same amount of. I don't know why my phone's trying to do that. It's one scenario. You're only going to have one set of sitcom people, so you're not going to have doubles. You're just going to have one set of sitcom folk. Okay.
All right.
So Mark, your sitcom is the Golden Girls, and Dan gets Night Court.
All right.
Big favorites for lots of people. Here is your scenario. You must breach Wakanda's defenses. You're laughing about that. All right, Mark leads this out. Go.
So, what I have on my side that Dan does not have is experience. These women have been through everything together, thick and thin. So that's the one thing they really truly have on their side. And just to take Dan Larroquette out of the game, Blanche isn't going to contribute much to me. So, it's Wakanda's guarded by a bunch of women. That's not really Blanche's thing. She's going to take Dan out of play. So let's just take Dan Larroquette off the board. And from that point on, it's going to be up to Dorothy to lead the group, as she always does. And with her quick wit and ability to just read a room and maybe break out into a Star Wars Christmas theme song and dance and confuse everyone, I'm in there.
Dan.
Now, see, you're going by way of going after the Dora Milaje, and it's John Larroquette or Dan Fielding, just to straighten that out. But with, see, the guys on Night Court, they're smart. They're not going to go that way. They're going to go after Martin Freeman's character and have him take them in because he's the connection to Wakanda now. So Harry's going to bring in the velvet voice of Mel Torme to smooth him over. He's going to do some magic, get the guy's attention, and then Marsha Warfield and Richard Mole, they're going to be on either side of him and lead him in to Wakanda, and then the rest of the team's going to be able to follow him in. So they're going to go that route, go in through Martin Freeman's character, plus the legal side of it. They know how to approach him from that. You got Dan Fielding, doing the legal argument. But again, you got the magic. So even, with the kids and stuff, Harry starts doing his magic tricks, gets their attention.
Mark.
Well, I'm going to go a different route because at some point we're going to see Deadpool fully into the MCU. And we're just going to have him and his one true love, B. Arthur, just walk straight into Wakanda. I mean, there's not going to be any questions asked. It's going to be like, hey, Black Panther's Deadpool. Oh, hey, I've heard about your movies. You're in Marvel now. Cool. This is my lady, B. Arthur. And they're just going to walk straight in there. And if the Dorja Milaje does not let them in, we have a stop or my mom will shoot situation with Sophia. So I'm not really worried about firepower. I'm not really worried about. I mean, I have the power of B. Arthur, and Deadpool's never-ending love for the Golden Girls. So, being that Deadpool is unkillable, I'm going all in with that angle because, frankly, if I go with Rose, I'm never getting in.
You may have B. Arthur, but I've got Meatloaf. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. How does that not open every door in the world? And before Marky Post joined the show, Terry Foley was the prosecuting attorney or the defense attorney, and she was the singer on Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. So right there, you start singing that song. The walls of the barriers of Wakanda come down. They bring Meatloaf in. You got Mel Torme also. The sound of music. Music is is a thing that brings people together. So Meatloaf, Mel Torme, the doors are just going to open up to Wakanda because they're in the music too. The drums, the music, it's going to be a beautiful thing. You don't have to sneak in with Deadpool. You got, it's going to be welcomed in just by the beauty and love of music.
That's an awesome final. I don't know how this is going to go. Brainy, what you got?
I think we need to go back and redo the finals without Dan and Mark in them. They made it too difficult to decide on where to go. I may have to take Kyle's advice and just make it a toss-up and see. This was they both did a good job on the arguments. And unfortunately, just because Mark had Golden Girls, I'd have to give it to him just because he had the Golden Girls.
You're saying
Mark,
it was a deficit?
Yeah.
Mark left off one of the greatest television show themes ever. And thank you for being a friend. Rivaled only by the Night Court theme, which is the single greatest woodblock solo ever to appear in music.
I will disagree with you.
Dan referenced the big thing, which is Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. She left to go back to Broadway and to go on tour with Meatloaf. That's why we got Marky Post. Are you kidding me? Dan, remembering that I think I probably told you that more than once as I've rewatched Night Court. So, Dan remembering that gets the point for me.
Well, this sucks because that makes me the tiebreaker, and I declare you both winners because I can, especially because this show was for charity. So, if you guys tell me, ideally it would be a comic book entertainment related charity, let me know. And the sponsor for this show, Space Cadet, is happy to donate to both of your charities because you guys did so amazing today. I appreciate y'all.
I think we were all in agreement that the most deserving charity is Buy Brainy a Ferrari charity fund. So we will all be donating.
Hey, also, just real quick, was my B. Arthur on Broadway / the Star Wars Christmas special lost on everyone, or did you just hate it?
No, I got it.
The Star Wars Christmas special. Yeah, okay.
I got it. That's but Paradise by the Dashboard Lights was almost immediately stuck in my head when she said Night Court. So I was just waiting for someone to reference it.
All right, we're gonna, before we start shooting our after show, which you guys should pay attention to on the experience, because it is a lot of fun. We stay afterwards and talk about all the things that we missed because we're still thinking about it. Like even after you give your feedback, you're still thinking about ways you would have argued a thing. So it's a really fun after show. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Nerdcular Warfare. We'll see you for the next time. So if you watched this show and thought to yourself, I could argue better than any of those folks, I can take home the prize, or at least I want to try real hard, you should totally get in touch with us. There's information on the screen now to allow you to sign up to be part of this fun thing that we shoot every single week. So you can win prizes and or just go for a glory of saying you know more than anybody else, or at least can argue your way out of anything. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us for this episode. We'll see you guys next time for another Nerdcular Warfare.